Hello, everybody. In today's lecture on fundamentals of machine learning, we shall be talking about major approaches towards machine learning. We'll try to understand the steps that are involved in creating any machine learning model. So let us get started. Till now, we know what is machine learning, we know what is artificial intelligence. We know that machine learning is classified into two groups: supervised machine learning and unsupervised machine learning. We also know that when we talk about supervised machine learning, we have two categorizations here. We have something called regression and we have something called classification. When we talk about unsupervised machine learning, we focus on the concept of clustering. In today's class, we shall try to understand that whenever we are supposed to create a machine learning model, what are the prominent steps involved in it. So, whenever we talk about the steps, whenever we talk about the steps, the first step in creating any machine learning model will be gathering data. Because without data, it is practically impossible to even imagine a machine learning model. So, gathering data is the first step of creating any machine learning model. Now, you can gather this data from any source. Either you can download this data or you can create your own data or you can perform certain surveys, you can take feedbacks, you can take suggestions, and with the help of those, you can gather data. So I would simply write survey here. That is another way of gathering data. Now, usually what happens is when we gather this data, the data is usually in a raw state. This data which is gathered, this is in a raw state. By raw, I mean that this data has a lot of redundancies. This data has a lot of things which needs to be cleaned away. So this data, which is raw in nature, needs to be cleaned, needs to be pre-processed before we can actually use it for creating any machine learning model. With that, we come to step number 2, which is called data cleaning, or you can call it data pre-processing. As the name suggests, in step number 2, the data which has been derived, that has been extracted, that has been created, needs to be cleaned, needs to be pre-processed. And this is done with the help of a technique called feature engineering. So feature engineering is the concept or is the technique which we use to clean the data. And why is it important for us to clean the data? Because the data is in its raw state, which means that it will have misclassifications, it will have redundancies, which we need to get rid of. Step number 3, and one of the most important step, is dividing the data. The data which has been cleaned in step number 2 will be divided into two groups in step number 3. It will be divided into dependent variables and it will be divided into independent variables. Step number 4 would be to split this data. Step number 4 would be to split this data into two groups again. First one for training our machine learning model, and the second one for testing our machine learning model. So these are the 4 important steps which are involved in creating any machine learning model. The purpose of splitting the data into training data and testing data is to understand how well the learning mechanism is done. For instance, if I have a student who is learning machine learning, who is learning Python, I will have to train that particular candidate, and after that I will also have to test that particular candidate. Without testing, I will not be able to evaluate the performance of my candidate. And if I don't know the performance of my candidate, I cannot claim how well this candidate has learned a concept or how badly the candidate has learned the concept. So it is mandatory for us to perform both training and testing. While performing training, we will focus that the candidate learns the concept, understands the concept, and while training, we will focus on how well that learning is utilized by this candidate and is being applied by this candidate while being tested. So basically, while testing is performed, this candidate is going to be evaluated, and the evaluation score, which is called accuracy in the language of machine learning, will be observed. If the accuracy is well enough, we'll consider the model suitable for deployment. If the accuracy is not so good, we will go back to step number 2, we will go back to step number 3, we'll go back to step number 4. So this process in a cyclic manner would repeat itself until and unless we get a satisfactory amount of accuracy. So these are the steps that we perform, and in each machine learning model, we'll be performing the same steps. I hope these points were clear. We'll keep it till here for today. See you guys in the next class. Thank you.